for some.
And that right there is literally me signing away my life to work for this fake guru. And I think it's finally time I started talking about this trauma, this horrific experience, and how it eventually shaped and molded me into who I am today. And this is a huge disclaimer. This is all just an alleged story, and none of this is actually fiction. So back in 2017, your boy was still making YouTube videos. I was grinding it out, and I was like, hey, maybe it's time I listen to everybody and just get a normal 9 to 5 job. I go on Craigslist and I see this posting. He's like, I am looking for team members to expand my team, and I am looking for the perfect videographer. I'm like, hey, I'm going to just throw out my email there, and then I get a reply back. We eventually schedule a meeting. All the emails were applied with team blank, this person's name. I'm like, oh, he has a virtual assistant or whatever, or an actual secretary. I go into this call, the Zoom meeting, and I don't see his face at all. It's completely blacklit, right? Blown out. I just see a shadow. I'm like, this is kind of weird, but I'm like, okay. And then I finally get scheduled, fast forward, going through this and actually getting the interview, right? I go there and he's like, hey, bring your camera. Like, why? I was like, oh, you're gonna be doing some filming. I'm like, did that mean I got the job or I didn't get the job? I'm like, why am I filming my own interview? This is so strange.
Like the roles and stuff. I mean, I just talk about stuff. It's actually like, I won't know like how you're filming is in terms of like what we film.
As I was going through this interview, he's like, yeah, man, I am expanding my team. I'm going to LA, to New York. You're gonna fly with me. And I am finally on the verge of my own business growing. I'm like, oh, cool. But just like anything, me knowing my spidey senses, before I talk to or meet up with anybody, I like to do my fact check. I like to do a simple Google search. And when I search this person's name, all I can find is nothing on his actual businesses, but the fact that he was a mentee of one of the biggest fake gurus in my town. And that itself was a huge red flag. But me being such a naive little kid and not having business experience, business chops, understanding digital marketing, I just signed my life away. So before I even signed these papers, the office itself was in the downtown financial district. I'm like, hey, I finally have a job at downtown.
And that took roughly, I'd say, 30 to 40 minutes, give or take. And that's unusual.
I go there, hey, there's a receptionist. Hey, there's, other people walking around. This actually looks like a big office with a lot of people. This looks legit. Soon to find out that you walk into this boardroom and there he is with his suit and tie, looking very professional. And then the mask slowly starts to fall off because that person sold you a dream. And then you realize, wait, you are positioning yourself as a successful business owner. This is a co-working space. That person in the front desk is everybody's secretary. So my job for this specific guru was to build this person's personal brand and YouTube channel. I was essentially, the master like all I always did, creating YouTube videos. For a person that rented out one small desk for 2 other employees, you're like, wait, something is really my gut instinct doesn't feel right. So my job was there to film that interview, but because that person did not want to be filmed, I just sat outside the door. Because of my spidey sense hearing, this is exactly what he said. He was onto something. He's like, hey, I know that you're affiliated with this guru. You don't really have any businesses. I searched your name. Nothing really pops up. I don't know how you made your money. And yeah. And that guy ran away because he was smart. We moved offices and then he moved us into this little cubicle, this 4x4 room no windows. It was the size of a closet. And it was me and this other dude, and there was no equipment. It was just two desks. He's like, bring your own computer, do this. And there was nothing in place. And I had to train myself. And it was bad to the point where it was like, what am I doing? And he's like, he was expecting me to work 50 hours. He wanted 5 YouTube videos, a day, scale this up. And it's like me busting my balls in the beginning, of course, because I'm a hard worker. But then as things started to pull back and wind back, I'm like, something is really weird here. So the first 2 videos that I made for this guy, he's like, they got 10 and 20,000 views, and all of a sudden he jumps up to 5,000. And then he's like, hey, Peter, the newest video is doing really good right now, eh? Can you see those numbers? I go into the studio dashboard of the YouTube analytics. 99% of these viewers coming from India. Nothing against Indian people, but the fact that what that means to me, it was India and Russia. What that means is we make English speaking content. Those followers were bots. And then fast forward a couple months and months, he hired another person, 2 other people, 3 other people. At one point, there was like 5 people. 5 people in that little room, and I literally have clips of me being in that room. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. How is this even possible? And I remember like our neighbors next by would walk by. I'm like, that giving us weird looks. I'm like, yeah, help. This is like a sweatshop.
So this is pretty much what I do on a daily basis so far for the past 2 weeks. Edit, have my coffee, 8 hours.
This person never paid you on time, right? There was a scheduled time that this person would pay us, but the pay was never on time. It was late. And his excuse was, oh yeah, the banks don't work on the weekends. And it kept on happening. It kept on happening. It was so bad at one point where he forgot to pay one of my coworkers, and he literally had to, not even a check, right? Because he sent me a check and the check bounced. He had to give my coworkers cash and change. Never in my life has that ever seen happen. So over time, as I was editing for this guy, I just got totally burnt out to the point where it's like I threatened to quit. And then he was like, oh, okay. We're going to peel this back, and instead of you making a video every day, let's make one every other day. Except the fact that I was so naive, I didn't use, I'm like, realize, wait, if I work for someone, why am I using my own equipment? I'm not a freelancer anymore. I'm working for you. The next thing is, it's like he had ideas and then he would pivot the next day, right? Something would work in his brain and then he would try to execute it and it would fail. And this is a very interesting theme through every one of the clients that he acquired. And till this day, through me and all my coworkers, we still don't know how he makes or gets his money. And one by one, it was the hilarious thing was that he would hire one person, and then that person would be so naive, like, this is a legit job, this is whatever. But I would not tell them anything about this guy seems really fishy. We think he's a scammer. I don't think he is what it is. This is all like a front. We let them figure that out for themselves. Because the more we worked with this fake guru, the more we can tell that this person has no employee skills whatsoever. He didn't understand how to communicate with face-to-face humans. And what I remember, one of the biggest red flags when I first started working here was like, hey, you should come in on a holiday. On a statutory holiday where the government is forcing you to not work. And if you do, you get paid more. Short story short, what happened was we all eventually quit one by one to the point where we were working in this digital marketing agency shop didn't exist anymore. And to this day, we still don't know how that was a quote unquote business where it was doing a name under another name. And the funny thing about this dude is that he shuts down this co-working space, he sets up another brand, and that person quits, and then he shuts down and he does another thing. This person made me very cynical to the world because my naive ass was like, there was a huge halo effect coming from a poor immigrant family where you realize that people who you think are successful, you put them on a pedestal because, oh, you think that their merits and means were got them there were in a proper way. But the reality is, just because someone's a business person, it does not mean that they got there legitimately. 5 and 6 of us were so in a desperate need for just living to paycheck that we stayed just for the money. But I feel like a lot of people do that in these jobs. And then you realize it's a different job, but same type of bullshit. Look at this. There's no windows in this room. 4 people. And being controlled by a boss, a fake influencer who, really fake, super non-transparent, and makes me, I get it. This job is video related, but every damn day, it's like I'm complaining and miserable, and it's like I'm just working for the money. Like, you would think it would be my dream job or something real. To this day, we still don't know how this guy makes his money, right? We've had ideas of hey, he has mommy and daddy money, right? He inherited this money somewhere. Or, this is a front. He's running other businesses. This is money laundering. Is it when you can't pinpoint how someone, their origin stories, and they can't be really specific of how they first started and their come up, it feels like you're trying to hide something. But fast forward from 2017 to now, 5 years later, I think I'm finally able to move past this, where there was a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of I didn't deserve the way to be treated like that. I was naive. But at the same time, it was a very pivotal moment in my life where I needed to grow as a person. I learned a lot about digital marketing. Working with my own coworkers, man, that was the tightest coworkers and close-knit coworkers that I've had because we had a common hatred. We hated our boss, but it's just like most jobs. When it comes to having a sense of character, you judge someone, right? Listen to your gut instinct and don't do things when you're in a desperate position, but especially financial. And ever since then, I think I've just been really burnt out from creating videos because I went to job to job to job and still freelancing. And then now, only now, I'm starting to realize I need to have fun again, right? I need content that makes me me, all right? And this is my form of having fun again instead of having someone tell me, this, you should do this, you should do that. How about I make my own damn show, Expose your ass. But yeah, man, that was one of the most pivotal moments in my early 20s, mid 20s. And me being so naive to the world, it was a really good learning experience for me. And of course, the resentment, maybe a little, maybe a lot, but it changed me, right? And if you want the full juicy details, in description below, I actually have, or in the comments, I interview one of my coworkers and we shoot the shit about all the sketchy and scummy things this guy did to us, and realizing that, wow, man, people are fake in this world and you need to be able to separate yourself from that people. Stay far away from these types of people, but understand that you can't avoid them. And it's something that you need to literally take head on. And how do you manage and deal? Okay, he is not trying to threaten me personally. He is just a conniving manipulator worldwide and all the time, right? And that's on them. I recorded this on a really off day, but the TLDR of it is how you never get scammed or tricked into someone's thing is, one, call them out on their bullshit. And if they can't provide a straight answer and then use something called deflection, hey, how about X? And they answer your answer with a question, something's fishy. Number two, Check if they have a BS backstory. Most people, especially in the marketing age, lie about how they got started. And if there isn't any real proof of how they got started, chances are they did it in a really scummy way. And number 3, guilty by association. If this person was affiliated with any sort of person that takes away their credibility, chances are that person is not someone that you want to mess with.